You mistake transparency for virtue, but men study you, extract value, and discard you. Opacity is the difference between being prey and being selected. You are trained to believe clarity is virtue, that if people understand you, they will respect you. This belief did not come from strength. It came from systems that benefit when men are legible, predictable, and easy to index. Honesty was sold to you as morality, but it functions as exposure. Exposure is not neutral. Exposure is a tactical disadvantage. Every hierarchy runs on information asymmetry. Those at the top see without being seen. Those at the bottom are inspected, evaluated, and measured. When you volunteer your thoughts, intentions, fears, and motivations, you collapse that asymmetry against yourself. You become readable. And once you are readable, you are manageable. Transparency is not courage. It is a signal of safety to predators. In nature, creatures that broadcast their intentions do not survive long. The silent ones do. The ones whose movements cannot be predicted force caution. Caution creates space. Space creates leverage. You were never taught this because leverage is dangerous in the wrong hands. Men are not threatened by aggression first. They are threatened by uncertainty. A man they cannot read cannot be sized, cannot be manipulated, cannot be preemptively dominated. That discomfort registers as alarm, not because you did something, but because you refuse to reveal enough for them to do something to you. The modern moral frame flipped this on purpose. It equated opacity with dishonesty, silence with weakness, restraint with repression. This inversion benefits institutions, workplaces, social systems, and even relationships that rely on extracting emotional labor, loyalty, or effort from you. If you are opaque, extraction slows. If extraction slows, power shifts. You are encouraged to be yourself, not because it empowers you, but because it exposes you. Once your identity is visible, it can be targeted. Your values can be appealed to. Your guilt can be activated. Your need to be seen as good can be weaponized. Goodness, when visible, becomes a handle. Notice who demands transparency from you. It is never the sovereign. It is never the untouchable. Power does not explain itself downward. Power does not narrate its internal state. Power allows interpretation, not access. When someone insists you open up, clarify, confess, or justify, they are not seeking connection, they are seeking positioning. The readable man lives in reaction. His environment knows which buttons to press. Praise steers him, shame disciplines him, threats corner him. He is not evil or stupid, he is exposed. Exposure invites control the same way an open wound invites infection. Opacity is not lying. It is refusing unnecessary disclosure. It is compression. It is choosing what exists externally and what remains internal. Surgeons do not explain every incision mid-operation. Generals do not broadcast intent before movement. Predators do not announce hunger. The first shift is internal. Stop seeing honesty as moral currency. Morality does not protect you in competitive environments. Position does. Information discipline is position. When you speak less, people project more. Projection creates errors. Errors create advantage. This chapter dismantles the lens you were given, not to make you deceptive, but to make you sovereign. A man who cannot be easily read cannot be easily used, and that single fact quietly rearranges every power dynamic around him. Human beings are prediction machines. Every interaction is an unconscious attempt to model the other person, their motives, limits, fears, and likely responses. The faster someone can model you, the faster they can decide how to treat you. Opacity interrupts this process, and interruption creates tension. When you are readable, people relax. They believe they understand the rules of engagement. They know what rewards move you, what insults destabilize you, what pressure bends you. Familiarity breeds not contempt, but confidence. Confidence is what allows domination to begin. An unreadable man denies this confidence. The brain reacts to uncertainty with caution. This is not philosophical, it is biological. When prediction fails, the nervous system slows behavior. Movements become conservative, words are chosen more carefully, aggression is delayed, manipulation becomes risky. Opacity forces others to spend energy calculating you instead of using you. This is why silence feels heavier than speech. Silence is not absence, it is unresolved data. The mind hates unresolved data. It fills the gap with imagined threats, exaggerated competence, or hidden intent. Most men assume others think like them. If they are capable of manipulation, they assume you are too. If they are opportunistic, they project strategy onto your quiet. Opacity weaponizes projection. When you explain yourself, you collapse this tension. You provide resolution. Resolution restores comfort. Comfort restores control. This is why people push you to be clear, just say how you feel, or explain what you mean. These are not neutral requests. They are attempts to stabilize uncertainty in their favor. The man who resists explanation holds the frame. Social dominance is rarely about force. It is about who reacts and who remains unmoved. The opaque man does not rush to fill silence. He does not correct assumptions immediately. He allows misinterpretations to exist long enough to observe how others behave under uncertainty. Behavior under uncertainty reveals hierarchy instincts. Watch what happens when you say less than expected. Some men grow anxious, they overtalk, they reveal themselves. Others attempt to provoke emotion to regain control. A few retreat. In every case, information flows towards you without reciprocity. This is the asymmetry that power depends on. Opacity also protects your internal state. Emotional transparency gives others access to your momentum. If they know what excites you, they can bait you. If they know what hurts you, they can wound you. If they know what you want, they can delay it, trade it, or dangle it. Opacity seals the system. This does not mean you become inert or passive. It means your outputs are intentional. You speak to move situations, not to relieve internal pressure. Most men speak to discharge emotion. That discharge is visible weakness. It tells others when you are overloaded, insecure, or seeking validation. Unreadable men do not seek validation. They observe alignment. There is also a darker mechanism at play. Men compete instinctively. When someone cannot assess your rank, they hesitate to challenge it. Uncertainty inflates perceived status. This is why minimalism in speech reads as confidence, even when it is strategic restraint. Opacity turns social environments into fog, and in fog, reckless men slow down. Only the prepared move decisively. This chapter installs a hard truth. People do not fear strength first. They fear miscalculation. Opacity increases the cost of miscalculation. That cost disciplines behavior around you without you lifting a finger. You do not dominate by being loud, expressive, or clear. You dominate by being difficult to read, difficult to predict, and expensive to test.
Men divide themselves long before any hierarchy is declared, not by strength or intelligence, but by exposure. Some men live as open systems, others operate as closed ones. The difference determines how they are treated, used, and remembered. The transparent man broadcasts. His thoughts arrive unfiltered, his emotions are legible on his face, his intentions are easy to infer. He believes this makes him authentic. In reality, it makes him convenient. Convenience is not respected, it is consumed. You can predict his reactions within minutes. Praise will speed him up, disapproval will slow him down, conflict will make him explain himself, silence will make him uncomfortable. He fills gaps compulsively because he confuses quiet with loss of control. This compulsion exposes him further. The transparent man is easy to recruit, easy to steer, easy to exhaust. He mistakes being liked for being safe. He confuses agreement with alignment. When tension arises, he seeks resolution instead of leverage. He clarifies, apologizes, reassures. Each attempt to stabilize the situation hands power to whoever remains unmoved. Now observe the opaque man. He speaks in fewer words than expected. His reactions are delayed. His emotional temperature remains flat even under pressure. He does not volunteer motives. He does not narrate his internal state. This absence forces others to guess. Guessing creates imbalance. The opaque man does not rush to correct assumptions. He lets people reveal themselves first. Some attempt dominance, some attempt charm, some attempt intimidation. Each strategy exposes the actor. He collects this data without responding emotionally. While the transparent man leaks information, the opaque man extracts it. This difference alters how men compete with you. Transparent men are tested immediately. They are challenged openly because their limits are visible. Opaque men are tested indirectly, if at all. Probing replaces confrontation. The environment becomes cautious. Notice which men are interrupted more. Notice whose opinions are dismissed. Notice who is expected to justify their position. It is rarely the opaque. Explanation is demanded from those already positioned lower. The transparent man believes trust is built through disclosure. The opaque man understands trust is built through consistency and restraint. One relies on emotional bonding, the other relies on reliability under pressure. In group dynamics, the transparent man becomes the emotional regulator. He absorbs stress, smooths conflict, fills silence. This role feels noble, but is structurally subordinate. Regulators maintain systems, they do not control them. The opaque man avoids this role. He allows discomfort to exist. Discomfort forces recalibration. People adjust themselves around him rather than the reverse. This is subtle dominance. There is also a gendered reality men rarely admit. Men do not respect what they can fully access. Mystery maintains value. Accessibility reduces it. This applies to time, attention, emotion, and identity. The transparent man gives these away freely. The opaque man releases them selectively. One lives as an open marketplace, the other as a guarded vault. The cost of transparency is cumulative. Each interaction slightly weakens your position. Each explanation trains others how to handle you. Over time, you are no longer an unknown variable. You are a known quantity. Known quantities are priced, negotiated, and optimized against. The opaque man resists pricing. He remains irregular, and irregularity breaks systems designed to extract predictable outputs. This chapter forces a choice, not between honesty and deceit, but between exposure and sovereignty, between being legible to everyone or powerful to yourself. You already know which one alarms other men. Opacity has always been treated as a threat because it disrupts hierarchy before hierarchy can be enforced. Across history, the most dangerous men were not the loudest or the strongest, but the least readable. Empires did not fear open aggression first. They feared men whose intentions could not be mapped. Rulers learned early that visibility equals vulnerability. Kings used courtiers, masks, rituals, and controlled access not for theater, but for insulation. The fewer people who understood a ruler's true intent, the harder it was to coordinate against him. Opacity fractured opposition before it formed. This pattern repeats everywhere power concentrates. In warfare, armies that revealed strategy lost before the battle began. Deception, feints, silence, and misinformation were not dishonorable tactics, they were survival mechanisms. The general who explained himself invited counter-strategy. The general who withheld intent forced enemies to react blindly. Men operate the same way socially. In tribal structures, the most dangerous male was not the most expressive. He was the one whose emotional state could not be read. You could not tell when he would strike, withdraw, or wait. This uncertainty forced caution. Caution preserved his position without constant conflict. Aggressive men are predictable. Unpredictable men are feared. Modern society tried to erase this reality by moralizing openness. It reframed secrecy as weakness, silence as guilt, and restraint as repression. This was not done to liberate men, it was done to make them governable. Systems function best when participants are legible. Corporations demand transparency. Institutions demand disclosure. Relationships demand emotional access. Each demand is framed as trust, but trust is irrelevant to systems built on extraction. What matters is predictability. Historically, men who retained opacity were labeled dangerous, manipulative, or antisocial. These labels were not diagnoses, they were warnings issued by threatened structures. When a man cannot be easily categorized, he cannot be easily controlled. Consider intelligence agencies. Their operatives are trained to compartmentalize identity, emotion, and intention. This is not pathology, it is operational necessity. Exposure compromises the mission. Opacity preserves it. The same principle applies to criminal power structures, political elites, and financial operators. Those who endure do not broadcast, they manage visibility with precision. They understand that every revealed detail becomes a lever someone else can pull. Men instinctively recognize this. That recognition is why opacity alarms them. It signals asymmetry. If they cannot read you, they cannot place themselves above you. Hierarchy requires comparison. Comparison requires data. Opacity denies data. This denial triggers ancient threat responses. Not fear in the cinematic sense, but unease. A quiet recalibration. A decision to observe rather than confront. That delay alone shifts power. History also shows the cost of transparency. Reformers, idealists, and moral absolutists were often destroyed not because they lacked virtue, but because they revealed too much. Their beliefs were mapped, their lines anticipated, their responses exploited. Openness made them easy targets. Opacity is not cowardice, it is insulation against premature engagement. Men who survive long arcs of power learn to separate internal reality from external display. What they think, want, or fear is not public property. The moment it becomes public, it becomes negotiable. This chapter deepens the threat by stripping away the modern illusion that openness is strength. Strength historically meant control over access. Control over access meant survival. When men sense opacity in another man, they do not consciously reference history, but their nervous system remembers. It slows them down, it warns them, it tells them this one is not safe to misjudge. That is why opacity doesn't just protect you, it reshapes the field around you.
Opacity is not a personality. It is an operating system. Without structure, silence becomes awkward and restraint collapses into passivity. This chapter installs control over speech, emotion, and access, so opacity functions as leverage, not absence. The first move is strategic withdrawal, not isolation, not disappearance. Withdrawal means you reduce unnecessary outputs. Most men leak information constantly, opinions no one asked for, emotions no one earned, plans that are not yet executed. Each leak lowers your bargaining position. You stop leaking. You do not explain unless explanation moves the board. You do not answer immediately unless delay costs you. You do not clarify every misunderstanding. Some misunderstandings are useful. They reveal how others interpret power and intention. Correcting them too early collapses advantage. Speech becomes intentional, short, neutral, final. You replace narrative with statements. Narratives invite debate. Statements set boundaries. The man who over-explains is asking permission. The man who speaks cleanly is issuing closure. Next is emotional compression. This does not mean suppression. It means reducing emotional display to what is tactically necessary. Emotion is data. Data should be released selectively. If anger appears, it must be controlled and rare. If approval appears, it must be earned and infrequent. Random emotional output trains others to ignore it. Controlled affect destabilizes manipulators. They rely on spikes, provocation, praise, urgency to force reaction. When reaction does not arrive, they escalate or retreat. Either outcome reveals intent. You remain still. You also sever the reflex to justify yourself. Justification is a submission ritual. It places the other person as evaluator. You step out of that role. You state decisions without defending them. You decline without elaboration. You disagree without explaining why you are allowed to. This alone shifts power dynamics faster than any confrontation. Access control follows. Not everyone deserves proximity to your thinking, planning, or emotional life. You stop confusing familiarity with trust. Trust is earned through alignment under pressure, not time or sentiment. Information flows on a need-to-know basis, and most people do not need to know. You become harder to read not by acting mysterious, but by acting consistent and minimal. Consistency without explanation frustrates those who seek leverage. They cannot tell if you are withholding or simply uninterested. That ambiguity protects you. Behaviorally, you slow everything down. Quick responses feel polite but signal availability. Availability lowers value. Deliberate pacing signals self-possession. You do not mirror urgency that is not yours. You let others wait. This waiting is not petty, it is diagnostic. Men reveal priorities when they are delayed. Pressure exposes hierarchy instinctively. Those who push lack control. Those who adjust recognize it. Finally, you accept the cost. Opacity will make some men uncomfortable. They will label you distant, cold, or arrogant. These labels are attempts to shame you back into accessibility. You do not correct them. You do not defend your image. You let misalignment burn off. Strategic withdrawal is not about winning approval. It is about preserving position. You cannot be used easily if you cannot be read easily. You cannot be steered if your reactions are not predictable. This chapter arms you with restraint, not aggression. You do not need to dominate loudly when your behavior quietly rearranges the room. Opacity, once operationalized, does not announce itself. It simply forces others to move around you. Opacity cannot coexist with the identity you were given. The old version of you survives on recognition. It wants to be understood, approved, validated. That identity leaks. It performs. It explains. It seeks confirmation that it exists in the minds of others. This chapter ends that dependency. Identity death is not symbolic. It is functional. You stop feeding the behaviors that made you legible. You remove the reflex to announce intentions before results. You stop narrating your growth, your struggle, your ethics. Narration is exposure. Exposure is taxation. The readable identity believes visibility equals value. It believes if others see the effort, they will respect it. This belief is a trap, designed for laborers, not operators. Value in competitive systems is not what is seen, it is what is scarce. Visibility increases supply. Scarcity increases leverage. You let the old identity starve. That old identity also seeks moral positioning. It wants to be seen as good, fair, loyal, principled. These labels are liabilities once known. They become pressure points. Loyalty becomes obligation. Fairness becomes predictability. Goodness becomes compliance. You do not abandon ethics, you abandon advertising them. Silence replaces signaling. This death process feels uncomfortable because it removes emotional feedback. The old identity lived off reaction, nods, agreement, reassurance, resistance. Without these signals, the nervous system panics. It mistakes absence of response for loss of status. In reality, status is recalibrating upward. You endure the silence without filling it. You also kill the impulse to correct perception. If someone misunderstands you and the misunderstanding does not materially harm your position, you let it stand. Control is not clarity. Control is consequence. When you chase perception, you surrender frame. The new identity does not rush to define itself. It allows others to define it, and then watches how they behave under that assumption. This is not manipulation, it is filtration. Those who project weakness reveal opportunism. Those who project strength reveal caution. Both are useful. Identity replacement is not about becoming cold for performance. It is about becoming sealed. Your internal state stops being a public resource. Your thinking becomes private property. Access becomes conditional. You also detach from emotional labor roles. You stop regulating group mood. You stop mediating tension. You stop smoothing discomfort. These behaviors were survival strategies in low-power positions. You do not need them anymore. Let friction exist. Friction exposes alignment. The new identity speaks less but carries weight. When it commits cleanly. When it withdraws, it does not explain. When it decides, it does not pull. This consistency creates gravity. People orient themselves around gravity without instruction. There will be resistance. Some will accuse you of changing. They are correct. Change threatens their access. Others will attempt to provoke the old version of you back into existence. They will use nostalgia, guilt, or manufactured urgency. You do not respond emotionally. You respond structurally, or not at all. This is the final severance. You stop performing yourself for others. What replaces the readable identity is not arrogance or isolation. It is sovereignty. You operate from internal authority rather than external approval. You are no longer selected by reactions. You select through outcomes. Men alarm at this shift because it removes their leverage. They cannot predict you. They cannot pull you back with praise or pressure. They sense the loss immediately, even if they cannot name it. This chapter completes the transformation. You are no longer visible by default. You are no longer accessible on demand. You are no longer easy to place. You have not become dangerous by force. You have become dangerous by removal.
This is the final line most men never cross because it costs them comfort. Visibility feels safe. It feels social. It feels human. But safety is not neutrality. Safety is alignment with systems that already decided where you belong. Every time you make yourself visible without leverage, you submit to evaluation. Evaluation creates rank.
Rank creates permission. Permission determines who is listened to and who is managed. Visibility places you inside that machinery automatically. Men who remain visible are constantly assessed. Their moods are tracked, their beliefs are categorized, their reactions are anticipated. Once anticipated, they are controlled, not through force, but through expectation. Expectation is the cleanest form of dominance. The system does not need to crush you if it can read you. Opacity removes you from default governance. It does not make you untouchable, but it makes you costly. Cost changes behavior faster than confrontation ever will. People hesitate to test what they cannot model. They delay pressure they cannot predict the outcome of. Delay creates space. Space creates sovereignty. This is why you will be subtly punished for becoming opaque. You will be accused of being distant, of withholding, of changing. These are not observations, they are correction attempts. The environment tries to pull you back into legibility because legibility makes you useful. When you refuse, the pressure escalates. Some will withdraw access, others will provoke emotion, others will attempt to shame you using morality or loyalty. None of these tactics work unless you still require approval. Once approval is no longer your fuel, the tactics collapse. Understand this clearly. The world does not reward restraint openly. It rewards it structurally. Quiet men are not praised, they are deferred to. That distinction matters. Opacity is not for men who want to be liked. It is for men who intend to remain unowned. Once you accept this, you stop over-communicating. You stop defending boundaries. You stop explaining why you move the way you do. You let outcomes speak. Outcomes are harder to argue with than words. This is the final warning. If you remain fully visible, you will always be positioned by others. They will decide what you are worth, what you can handle, what you are allowed to want. They will do this calmly, politely, and without malice, because the system trained them to. If you become opaque, that automatic positioning breaks. Men around you will sense it before they understand it. Conversations change, tests slow down, requests become framed instead of assumed. Your silence will carry more weight than your explanations ever did. This is not a tactic you turn on and off. Partial opacity fails. Inconsistency invites probing. Sovereignty requires permanence. Once you step out of constant legibility, you do not return to it to soothe discomfort. You let the room adjust. You let weaker men call it arrogance. You let opportunists lose interest. You let serious men recalibrate. And you let the old version of yourself remain extinct. Visibility is submission. Opacity is selection. You now understand why one alarms men and the other keeps them comfortable. Choose accordingly.